They called it the scandal of the decade. In the freezing rain of the Northern Territory, Anna Cross, the daughter of a high-ranking beta, didn't just lose the most important competition of her life. She humiliated herself. Everyone saw a clumsy, weak girl crumbling under pressure. Everyone laughed, except for one man. Dominic Hale, the alpha of the rival ironclad pack, didn't see a failure. He saw a performance. And when the dust settled, he didn't just expose her lie. He walked right into enemy territory and claimed her as his own. But why would a ruthless killer want a failure? The truth is darker than you think. This is the story of the Lunar Trial deception. November 14th, the Silver Creek Territory. The mud tasted like copper and humiliation. Anna Cross lay face down in the dirt, the heavy, incessant rain matting her dark hair against her skull. Around her, the roar of the crowd was a physical weight, a mixture of groans, jeers, and the distinct high-pitched laughter of the elite pack members. She didn't move immediately. She counted to 3. 1, 2, 3. If she got up too fast, it would look like a stumble. If she stayed down too long, it would look like an injury. It had to look like incompetence. Pure, pathetic incompetence. "Get up, you useless waste!" The voice belonged to her father, Beta Bastion Cross. Even over the storm and the crowd, his roar was unmistakable. It carried the specific frequency of a man whose retirement plan relied entirely on selling his daughter to the highest bidder. Anna pushed herself up on trembling arms, wiping mud from her eyes. Through the blurred vision, she saw the finish line. It was only 50 yards away. Ahead of her, a blur of auburn fur, Lydia Galloway was already crossing the threshold, howling in victory. Lydia had won the scent-tracking portion of the Lunar Trial. Lydia would be the one to stand beside Kaylin Reed. Anna let her shoulders slump, feigning a sob. Inside, however, her heart was hammering a rhythm of pure, unadulterated relief. I did it. I lost. This was the Lunar Trial of the Silver Creek Pack, a barbaric, modernized version of a debutante ball mixed with a military combine. The prize? Becoming the mate of Kaylin Reed, the future alpha, a man with a jawline cut from granite and a personality as deep as a puddle. Kaylin didn't want a partner, he wanted a hood ornament. And Anna, with her high-test scores and beta bloodline, had been the front-runner. She hated him. She hated the pack, and more than anything, she hated the secret that burned in her veins, a secret she had to keep hidden, or they would turn her into a breeding mare for strong heirs. Anna stood up, limping slightly on her left leg. A nice touch, she thought. She looked toward the VIP box, the elevated platform shielded by glass, where the high-ranking wolves sat. There was Alpha Reed, Kaylin's father, looking disgusted. Beside him sat Kaylin himself. The golden boy. He wasn't looking at her with concern. He was looking at his phone, already bored of her failure. But then, Anna's gaze drifted to the far right of the box. The visitors section. The Silver Creek Pack was hosting a delegation from the Ironclad Pack to renegotiate border treaties. It was a tense affair. Ironclad wolves were notoriously brutal, industrial, and cold. Sitting in the shadows of the booth was a man who seemed to absorb the light around him. He wasn't watching the winner, Lydia. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking directly at Anna. Dominic Hale, the alpha of Ironclad. Even from this distance, the intensity of his stare felt like a physical touch. He was younger than the rumors suggested, perhaps 28 or 29, with dark hair swept back and eyes that looked like shattered flint. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't jeering. He was tilting his head slightly to the side, studying her like a biologist dissecting a frog. A chill that had nothing to do with the rain skittered down Anna's spine. "Look away," she begged silently. "I'm a failure. I'm weak. Look at the winner." Dominic didn't blink. He raised a hand to his chin, his fingers tapping a slow rhythm against his jaw. Then, terrifyingly, the corner of his mouth twitched upward. Not a smile, a smirk of recognition. He knew. Anna broke eye contact, her heart rate spiking for real this time. She turned and limped toward the loser's tunnel, the mud clinging to her boots. She had successfully failed the trial, but she had the sinking feeling she had just walked into a much more dangerous trap. 2 hours later. The Pack House Great Hall. The post-trial gala was a suffocating affair of velvet, expensive cologne, and fake sympathy. Anna had scrubbed the mud off, but she couldn't scrub off the shame her father had draped over her like a heavy cloak. She wore a simple grey dress, blending into the walls, holding a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking. "I can't believe you tripped," a voice, dripped with saccharine poison, nearby. Anna turned to see Lydia Galloway, the victor. Lydia was glowing, clutching Caelan Reed's arm like a designer handbag. "The ground was slick, Lydia," Anna said, keeping her voice meek. "You were just faster. Congratulations." Caelan looked at Anna, his lip curling. "My father is furious, Anna-Fina. He had a lot of money riding on the betting pools for you. You embarrassed the beta line." "I'm sorry, Caelan," Anna said, lowering her eyes. "I guess I'm just not Luna material." "Clearly," Caelan scoffed. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Honestly, it's a relief. You're too quiet. I need a Luna with fire. Someone who can handle the spotlight." He squeezed Lydia's waist. "Go home, Anna. You're depressing the guests." Anna nodded, fighting the urge to knee him in the groin. She turned to leave, aiming for the side exit that led to the gardens. She just needed to survive tonight, and then she could apply for a transfer to a human university in the city. She would fade away. "Going somewhere, Miss Cross?" The voice was deep, baritone, and vibrated in her chest. Anna froze. She knew that voice, though she had never heard it speak. She turned slowly. Dominic Hale stood blocking her path. Up close, he was terrifying. He towered over Caelan by at least 3 inches, his shoulders broad enough to block out the rest of the room. He wore a black suit, tailored to perfection, but he wore it with the discomfort of a predator forced into a costume. He smelled of pine, rain, and something metallic, like gun oil and ozone. "Alpha Hale," Anna said, dropping into a respectful, submissive bow. "I was just leaving. I didn't mean to intrude." "Intrude?" Dominic took a step closer, invading her personal space. The air around them seemed to crackle. "You were the most interesting part of this entire circus." Anna kept her eyes on his tie. "I'm afraid you saw a very poor performance, Alpha. I tripped." "Did you?" The question hung in the air. "I watched the replay," Dominic said softly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "On the monitors in the box, you were leading by 4 seconds. You checked your watch. Then, at the ravine jump, you shifted your weight to your left heel before you landed. You didn't slip, Anna-Fina. You threw yourself into the mud." Anna's blood ran cold. She looked up, her eyes wide. "I don't know what you're talking about." "And the scent tracking," Dominic continued, his eyes dancing with amusement. "You caught the scent trail at the second marker. I saw your nostrils flare. I saw your pupils dilate. You found the target, and then you deliberately turned 90 degrees west into the briar patch." He leaned down, his face inches from hers. "Why?" "You're mistaken," Anna whispered, her hands trembling. "I'm just clumsy. Ask anyone. Ask Caelan." "Caelan is an idiot who thinks with his ego," Dominic said bluntly. "He sees what he wants to see. I see a wolf who is hiding her power, and I want to know why a beta female with perfect reflexes and superior tracking skills is desperate to lose the title of Luna. Anna took a step back, hitting the wall. She was trapped. "Please," she hissed. "Leave it alone. It's none of your business." "It became my business the moment I realized you were the only competent wolf in this entire pack," Dominic said. Suddenly the crowd hushed. Alpha Reed, the host, was tapping a spoon against a glass on the main stage. "Attention, everyone," Alpha Reed boomed. "As we celebrate the upcoming union of my son Kalen and the lovely Lydia, we also have business to conclude. As per the Treaty of '98, the Silver Creek Pack owes a debt of resources to our neighbors. The Ironclad Pack," Reed gestured toward Dominic. "Alpha Hale, please, join us." Dominic didn't look away from Anna for a long moment. Then he winked. He turned and walked onto the stage, moving with a lethal grace. He took the microphone, his presence silencing the room instantly. "Thank you, Alpha Reed," Dominic said, his voice projecting without effort. "We have discussed the debt. You offered land. You offered gold." He paused, scanning the room. "Ironclad has enough land. We have enough gold." Dominic's eyes locked onto Anna again, across the crowded room. "However, our pack is in need of fresh bloodlines, specialized skills." Anna's stomach dropped. No, he wouldn't. "There is an ancient clause in our treaty," Dominic continued, his voice hardening. "The right of claim. If a wolf of the hosting pack is unbonded and rejected by their own alpha heir, a visiting alpha may claim them as reparations." The room gasped. This was archaic law. It hadn't been used in 50 years. "Kalen Reed rejected Anafina Cross tonight," Dominic said, pointing a finger at the beta female pressed against the wall. "He called her weak. He called her useless. He cast her aside." Dominic smiled, a wolfish, dangerous grin. "I disagree. I claim Anafina Cross. She will return with me to Ironclad tonight. Her debt to Silver Creek is paid. She belongs to me." "You can't be serious," Kalen shouted, stepping forward. "Her, she's a loser. Take the land, Hale." "I don't want the land," Dominic said, his voice dropping to a growl that shook the window panes. "I want her." He stepped off the stage and walked through the parting crowd, straight to Anna. He extended a hand. It wasn't an offer. It was a command. "Pack your bags, Anafina," he whispered. "You played the game, but you forgot one thing. The predator always notices the prey that tries to stay still." Anna looked at his hand, then at her father, who looked shocked but calculating. He was already doing the math, realizing he could get rid of his disappointing daughter and settle a national debt in one move. She had no choice. Anna placed her hand in Dominic's. His grip was warm, rough, and electric. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered, terrified. "Because," Dominic murmured as he pulled her to his side, "I love a good mystery, and you, little wolf, are the biggest mystery I've seen in years." November 15th, 2 a.m., Interstate 90, northbound. The silence in the armored SUV was louder than the storm raging outside. Anna sat rigidly in the passenger seat, her single duffel bag, hastily packed by a house staff member who wouldn't look her in the eye, shoved into the footwell. The leather interior smelled of rich mahogany and that same metallic scent that clung to Dominic Hale. Dominic was driving. He hadn't spoken since he practically threw her into the vehicle back at the Silver Creek Manor. He drove with one hand on the wheel, his profile sharp against the passing flashes of highway streetlights. The speedometer read 95 miles per hour, but the heavy car felt perfectly stable. They were heading north toward the Canadian border, into the rugged territory that the Ironclad Pack controlled. It was a land of dying steel towns, dense pine forests, and brutal winters, a stark contrast to the manicured lawns and country clubs of Silver Creek. "Stop shaking," Dominic said suddenly. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the hum of the engine. Anna clenched her jaw. "I'm cold." "You're lying. The seat warmers are on high. You're terrified." He glanced over at her, his eyes reflecting the dashboard lights. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." "What do you want with me, Alpha Hale?" Anna asked, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. "If you think I'm some secret weapon, you're going to be disappointed. I'm just a beta who choked under pressure." Dominic let out a short, harsh laugh. Still sticking to the script, admirable commitment. He reached into the center console and pulled out a manila folder, tossing it into her lap. Anna hesitated, then opened it. The interior light flicked on. It was a dossier. Her dossier. It contained things she expected: her mediocre PAC school grades, her health records, her father Bastian Cross's financial statements. But then she turned the page. It was a faded copy of a birth certificate. Not hers. Her mother's. Catherine Holloway. Anna stopped breathing. "Bastian Cross is an ambitious social climber," Dominic said, his gaze back on the rain-slicked road. "He married your mother for her looks, and when she died when you were 5, he buried her history. He told everyone she was a low-ranking Omega from a dissolved PAC in the South." He tapped the steering wheel. "But that name, Holloway, that rang a bell in the ironclad archives." Anna stared at the paper, her vision blurring. "I don't know what this means." "It means you're a liar, Anna Finer," Dominic said coldly. "The Holloways weren't Omegas. They were a specialized bloodline known as ghost wolves. They were the best trackers and assassins the werewolf community had ever seen because they had a genetic anomaly. They could suppress their scent almost entirely and regulate their adrenaline so they never panic in a fight." He downshifted as the highway began to climb into the mountains. "They were also unstable, prone to snapping. They were purged by the Council 20 years ago. Your father hid your mother's identity because if Silver Creek knew he bred with a Holloway, he wouldn't just lose his status. He'd be exiled." Anna closed the folder slowly. The secret that had defined her entire life, the reason her father forced her to underperform, to be meek, to never draw attention, was out. "So," Anna whispered, her voice hollow. "You know." "I suspected," Dominic corrected. "I saw the Holloway traits in the trial, the way your pupils didn't dilate when you fell. You weren't scared. You were calculating the fall damage, the way you found that scent trail instantly without flaring your nostrils. You don't track like a wolf. You track like a hunter." He pulled the SUV off the highway onto a private gravel access road. A massive steel gate loomed ahead, flanked by guard towers. The sign read, "Ironclad Industries, private property, authorized personnel only." Dominic stopped the car at the gate while a guard checked his ID. He turned to Anna, his expression unreadable. "Kalen Reed wanted a poodle for his dog shows. He threw away a wolf because he was too stupid to realize she was pretending to be a sheep." The gate groaned open. Dominic accelerated through. "Welcome to Ironclad, Anafina. Here, we don't pretend. And if you try to lie to me again, I won't just expose your father. I'll let my pack eat you alive." November 15th, 8:30 a.m. The Ironclad compound. If Silver Creek was a palace, Ironclad was a fortress built on the bones of industry. Anna woke up in a guest room that resembled a prison cell, designed by an architect, with a concrete fetish. The walls were bare cinder block, the window was reinforced with wire mesh, and the bed was a military cot. She looked out the window. The pack house was actually a repurposed administration building for an old steel foundry. Massive, rusted blast furnaces dominated the skyline. The air smelled perpetually of soot and ozone. Below, in a paved courtyard surrounded by electric fencing, dozens of wolves were training. It wasn't the agility courses of Silver Creek. It was hand-to-hand combat, brutal and bloody. There was a sharp knock on her door before it swung open. A woman stood there. She was perhaps 30, with buzz-cut blonde hair and a jagged scar running from her left eyebrow down to her jaw. She wore tactical cargo pants and a tight black t-shirt that showed off arms thick with muscle. She looked at Anna like she was something disgusting she'd stepped in. "Get up, princess," the woman barked. "Alpha wants you on the floor." Anna grabbed the clothes she'd been left, oversized grey sweatpants and a black hoodie with the ironclad logo, and quickly changed. "Who are you?" "Jax Miller." "Pack Beta," she grunted. "And I don't like you. You smell like expensive perfume and weakness. Dominic thinks you're useful. I think you're a liability." Jax grabbed Anna's arm with a grip like a steel vice and dragged her out of the room, down 3 flights of metal stairs and into the main cavern of the building. It was called the Foundry. It was a massive open-plan space that served as mess hall, training ground, and living room. Hundreds of wolves turned to stare as Jax shoved Anna toward the center of the room. The silence was suffocating. These weren't the polished socialites of her old pack. These wolves were scarred, tattooed, and radiated raw, aggressive energy. They were staring at the loser from Silver Creek, the charity case their alpha had brought home. "Fresh meat on deck," Jax yelled, grinning maliciously. "Silver Creek's finest failure." A low ripple of laughter went through the room. A large male wolf with a broken nose stepped forward, sniffing the air near Anna. "Doesn't smell like much," he sneered. "Smells scared." Anna's heart hammered against her ribs. "Suppress it," she ordered herself, tapping into the Holloway discipline. "Slow the heart rate. Don't let them smell the fear." She forced her body to go still. She didn't cower. She just stood there, looking vaguely bored. Jax narrowed her eyes, noticing the sudden lack of fear scent. "All right, enough gawking. Back to work." She shoved Anna toward a metal door at the far end of the hall. "Alpha's office, top floor. Don't keep him waiting, and don't trip on the stairs." Anna walked the gauntlet of staring eyes, feeling the hostility rolling off them in waves. She climbed 4 more flights of stairs to the executive level. Dominic's office was vast, glass-walled on one side, overlooking the entire Smoky Valley. He was standing by the window, dressed in dark jeans and a black sweater, holding a mug of coffee. He looked exhausted. "How was your welcome?" he asked, without turning around. "Warm," Anna replied dryly. "Your beta wants to kill me." "Jax wants to kill everyone she doesn't trust. It's why she's good at her job." Dominic turned. His eyes were bloodshot. The intense, mocking arrogance from the previous night was dampened by something that looked very much like stress. "Sit down, Anafina." She sat in a stiff metal chair opposite his massive desk. "I didn't bring you here to be my mate," Dominic said flatly, destroying the rumors that had probably already spread through both packs. "I don't have time for romance, and I certainly don't want Silver Creek's leftovers in my bed." Anna felt a strange pang of relief, mixed with insult. "Then why am I here? The debt?" "The debt was an excuse," Dominic said. He leaned forward, placing both hands on the desk. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became heavy, suffused with alpha power. "Ironclad is under attack." Anna frowned. "I haven't heard anything about a war." "It's not a war. It's an infestation," Dominic growled. "Over the last 3 months, I've lost 4 patrol wolves along the eastern border. They weren't just killed, they were butchered. And there were no tracks, no scent, nothing." He slid a tablet across the desk. It showed crime scene photos. They were gruesome. Anna flinched but forced herself to look. "My trackers are the best brute force hunters in the territory," Dominic said, "but they rely on scent and sight. Whatever is doing this, it's like a ghost." He looked up, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "A ghost," he repeated. "Like you." Anna understood instantly. The Holloway bloodline, the ability to suppress scent, to move without triggering the primal alarms of other predators. "You think another Holloway is doing this?" Anna asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I thought they were all gone." "So did I, until I saw you at the trials," Dominic said. "You know how to hide. You know how to move without being seen. You understand the mechanics of stealth better than my entire Beta Guard combined." He stood up and walked around the desk, leaning against it right in front of her. "I claimed you because I need a ghost to catch a ghost, Anafina. You're not here to be a Luna. You're here to be a hunting dog. You find whatever is killing my wolves, and I'll keep your father's secret and ensure you have a comfortable life here. You fail, and I throw you to Jax." He held out his hand, just like he had at the gala. But this wasn't a rescue. This was a conscription. "Do we have a deal, Ghost Wolf?" November 20th, the eastern border, Sector 4. The forest was a graveyard of pine needles and silence. Dominic Hale stood by the trunk of a massive spruce, his arms crossed, watching Anafina. She was on her hands and knees in the dirt, 20 feet away, near the site where Patrol Unit 7 had been decimated 3 days prior. It was freezing, a biting 20 degrees Fahrenheit, but Anna had shed her heavy coat. She claimed the synthetic fabric made too much noise when it rubbed against itself. She wore only a thermal long-sleeve shirt and cargo pants, shivering slightly, but her focus was absolute. "Well?" Dominic's voice was impatient, cutting through the stillness. "My trackers have combed this area 3 times. They found nothing but wolf prints and blood. If you're just going to crawl around in the dirt, we can leave." "Quiet," Anna snapped. She didn't look up. Dominic raised an eyebrow. No one told him to be quiet. But he didn't growl. He waited. Anna closed her eyes. She wasn't sniffing in the traditional sense. The Holloway technique, the ghost method, wasn't about inhaling the air. It was about tasting the absence of it. Normal wolves left a scent trail like a thick rope of cologne. But this killer was different. Anna visualized the forest floor. She pushed away the scent of pine, the metallic tang of dried blood, and the lingering musk of Dominic's powerful alpha presence. She looked for the void, the empty spaces where the air felt sterile. There, a faint trace of ammonia. And underneath that, something sweet, like rotting lilies. Anna opened her eyes and crawled forward, moving with a terrifying, fluid silence that made the hair on Dominic's arms stand up. She reached into a thorny bush and pulled out a single, tiny object. She stood up and walked to Dominic, holding it out. It was a cigarette butt, but it had been stripped of its filter and wrapped in a dissolvable leaf. "A human smoker?" Dominic asked, skeptical. "No," Anna said, her voice trembling slightly. "Look at the brand stamp on the remaining paper. It's a custom blend. Blackbriar tobacco." Dominic's face went pale. "That's impossible. Blackbriar hasn't been manufactured since the late 90s. It was the preferred brand of the mercenary guilds in the chaotic years before the council cracked down." "The killer isn't a wild animal, Dominic," Anna said, looking up at him, her eyes dark with realization. "And it's not a random rogue. This is a hitman, a professional. They use chemical blockers to hide their scent. That's the ammonia smell. And they smoke this blend because the smoke is heavy and sinks to the ground, dispersing quickly." She looked back at the kill site. Your wolves didn't stand a chance. This wasn't a territory dispute. This was a liquidation. Dominic took the tobacco remnant, his jaw clenching. He realized in that moment that Anna wasn't just a useful tool. She was a weapon he had severely underestimated. If it's a hit man, Dominic growled. Someone hired them. Someone with deep pockets and a grudge against Ironclad. Or, Anna whispered, someone who wants to destabilize the region. Suddenly, a twig snapped. It was a sound so faint, a human ear would never have caught it. Even an average wolf might have missed it over the wind. But Anna heard it. And Dominic heard it. They spun around in unison. 70 yards away, partially obscured by the grey mist rolling off the mountains, a figure stood watching them. It was a wolf, but it was massive, gaunt, mangy, with fur the colour of dirty ash. But it wasn't standing on 4 legs. It was hunched on its hind legs, leaning against a tree in a mockery of a human posture. Its eyes were glowing a sickly yellow. "Intruder!" Dominic roared, his body exploding into motion. He shifted mid-stride, his clothes shredding as massive black fur erupted from his skin. The transformation was violent and instantaneous. The alpha wolf, a beast of pure muscle and rage, charged the figure. Anna didn't shift. She knew she wasn't strong enough to fight that thing. Instead, she did what she was bred to do. She vanished. She dropped her heart rate, flattened her presence, and darted into the underbrush, circling wide to flank the creature. The ash wolf didn't run. It waited until Dominic was feet away, then sidestepped with unnatural speed, swiping a clawed hand at Dominic's flank. Slash! Blood sprayed against the snow. Dominic roared in pain, tumbling but recovering instantly. He lunged again, jaws snapping for the ash wolf's throat. But the creature was fast. Too fast. It moved like water. Anna, hidden in the brush 20 feet to the right, saw the opening. The ash wolf was focused on the alpha. It didn't know the ghost was there. She saw the creature reach for something strapped to its leg, a silver-plated knife. "Dominic! Left!" she screamed. Dominic didn't hesitate. He trusted her voice. He threw his weight to the right, narrowly missing the silver blade that would have severed his jugular. The distraction worked. The ash wolf snarled, realizing it wasn't a one-on-one fight. It looked directly at the bush where Anna was hiding. It grinned, a horrifying, human expression on a wolf's face. Then, it reached into a pouch and threw something on the ground. A cloud of thick purple smoke exploded outward. By the time Dominic cleared the smoke, coughing and snarling, the creature was gone. Dominic shifted back to human form, naked and bleeding from a deep gash in his side. He fell to one knee, clutching the wound. Anna scrambled out of the bushes, ripping off her thermal shirt to press against his bleeding side. She was left in just her tank top in the freezing air, but she didn't care. "Stay still," she ordered, her hands slick with his blood. It missed the artery, but it's deep. Dominic looked up at her. His eyes were hazy with pain, but burning with a new intensity. He grabbed her wrist, stopping her frenzied movements. "You stayed!" he rasped, his voice rough. "You could have run. You could have let it kill me and escaped." "I'm not a coward, Dominic," Anna said fiercely, pressing harder on the wound. "I'm just good at hiding. There's a difference." Dominic stared at her, and for the first time, the barrier between them, the wall of arrogance and mistrust, shattered. He didn't see a beta failure. He didn't see a political pawn. "Get me back to the truck," he grunted, leaning his heavy weight against her. "We have a war to plan." November 27th. The safe house. 7 days had passed since the ambush on the ridge. The atmosphere at Ironclad had shifted from hostility to a tense, paranoid siege mentality. Dominic had moved operations out of the main foundry and into a reinforced safe house deep in the mountains, an old brutalist bunker from the Cold War era. Dominic was healing, his supernatural metabolism knitting the silver-inflicted wound together. But it was slow. Silver poison left a lingering sickness. Anna had become his shadow. The pack, surprisingly, hadn't rejected her. After Jax, the beta, heard how Anna had saved Dominic's life, the harassment stopped. It was replaced by a wary respect. They called her the Spook. It was late evening. A blizzard was hammering the bunker, burying the world in white. Anna was in the command room, staring at a map of the territory. She had been cross-referencing the Black Briar tobacco with supply routes. "You've been awake for 30 hours, Dominic's voice came from the doorway. He walked in, wearing loose sweatpants and a bandage around his midsection. He looked better, stronger. The color had returned to his face. "I found something," Anna said, rubbing her eyes. "The tobacco. It was shipped through a shell company in Seattle. The company is registered to a Vanguard Holdings." She turned to face him. "Dominic. Vanguard Holdings is a subsidiary of the Silver Creek Pack's investment firm." The silence in the room was deafening. Dominic walked over to the map, his face hardening into stone. "You're saying your father hired a hitman to kill my wolves?" "No," Anna said, shaking her head. "My father is greedy, but he's cheap. He wouldn't pay for a ghost wolf assassin. He'd send a thug. This is sophisticated. This is someone else inside Silver Creek. Someone with access to the accounts, but a different agenda. Kalen." Dominic spat the name. "Maybe," Anna said. "Or someone pulling Kalen's strings." Dominic turned away from the map and looked at her. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows. He stepped closer, invading her space, but this time it wasn't to intimidate. It was magnetic. "Why are you helping me destroy your own pack, Anafina?" he asked softly. "They aren't my pack," she whispered. "They were my cage. You gave me a job. You gave me a purpose." Dominic reached out, his hand brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. His fingers lingered on her cheek. The touch sent a jolt of electricity straight to her core. The mate bond, that mythical pull she had read about but never felt, surged. It was undeniable. "I didn't just give you a job," Dominic murmured, his voice dropping an octave. "I gave you a home. You just haven't realized it yet." He leaned in. Anna's breath hitched. She could smell the pine and rain, the unique scent that was him. She wanted him to kiss her. She wanted to stop being the ghost and finally be seen. Crash. The heavy steel door of the bunker shook violently. Then came the sound of an explosion. The lights flickered and died. Emergency red lights bathed the room in a bloody glow. "We're breached!" Jax's voice screamed over the intercom. "Perimeter is down! They have heavy weapons! It's an assault team!" Dominic pulled away from Anna instantly, the lover vanishing, the alpha returning. He grabbed a semi-automatic rifle from the wall mount and tossed a handgun to Anna. "Can you shoot?" he demanded. "I don't miss," she replied, checking the magazine with practiced ease. "Stay behind me. We head for the escape tunnel in the sub-basement." They burst out of the command room into the hallway. Smoke was filling the air. Gunfire echoed from the upper levels, a mix of human weapons and the wet, tearing sounds of wolves fighting. They reached the stairwell, but the path was blocked. 3 figures in tactical gear, wearing gas masks, stood on the landing. They weren't wolves. They were human mercenaries. "Targets acquired," one shouted mechanically. Dominic didn't wait. He fired 2 controlled bursts. 2 mercenaries dropped. The third returned fire, bullets sparking against the concrete wall, inches from Anna's head. Anna dropped to a crouch, aimed through the railing, and fired a single shot. The mercenary's mask shattered. He fell. "Good shot," Dominic grunted, grabbing her arm. "Move!" They scrambled down the stairs toward the sub-basement. But as they reached the bottom level, the heavy blast doors at the end of the corridor began to open slowly. Standing in the opening wasn't a mercenary. It was Kalen Reed. But he looked wrong. His eyes were dilated, black veins pulsing in his neck. He was holding a remote detonator in one hand and a syringe gun in the other. Beside him stood the Ash Wolf, the creature from the woods. "Hello, darling," Kalen sneered, his voice slurring slightly, manic and high. "I told you I needed a Luna with fire, but since you left, I decided to burn everything down instead." Dominic stepped in front of Anna, growling low in his chest. "You violated the treaty, Reed. You brought humans into a pack war. The Council will execute you." "The Council won't know," Kalen laughed, "because you'll all be dead, buried under this mountain." He looked at the Ash Wolf. "Kill the Alpha, but keep the girl. I have plans for her." The Ash Wolf roared, a sound that shook the dust from the ceiling, and charged. "Go!" Dominic shoved Anna toward a maintenance vent. "Get out, Anafina! Run!" "No!" she screamed, trying to grab him. "I can't fight them and protect you at the same time!" Dominic roared, his eyes flashing gold. "Go! That is an order!" He turned and shifted, colliding with the Ash Wolf in a brutal tangle of fur and teeth. Anna hesitated for a split second. She looked at Kalen, who was raising his weapon toward Dominic's exposed back. She made a choice. She didn't run to the vent. She raised her gun and aimed not at Kalen, but at the ceiling above him, specifically at the exposed hydraulic pipes of the blast door. "Don't miss." She fired. The pipe burst. High-pressure steam exploded outward, engulfing Kalen and the doorway in a scalding white cloud. Kalen screamed, dropping the detonator. "Dominic, now!" Anna yelled. Dominic, hearing the explosion, kicked the Ash Wolf away and scrambled back to Anna. He grabbed her waist and hauled her into the maintenance shaft, just as Kalen blindly fired a spray of bullets into the wall where they had been standing. They slid down the chute into the darkness of the old mine tunnels beneath the bunker, leaving the chaos behind them. But as they hit the dirt floor of the tunnel, Anna realized two things. First, they were alive. Second, in the scramble, she had lost her gun, and they were now trapped underground, miles from help, with a maniac and a monster hunting them from above. Dominic pulled her up. He was breathing hard, blood dripping from a new cut on his lip. "You disobeyed an order," he said, breathless. "I saved your ass," she retorted, her hands shaking. Dominic stared at her in the gloom. Then he grabbed her face and kissed her, hard, desperate, and claiming. It was a kiss of adrenaline and survival. "If we survive this," he whispered against her lips, "I am never letting you go." "Then let's survive," Anna said. "I know these tunnels. I studied the blueprints. There's a way out. But we have to go deep." She took his hand. "Follow the ghost." November 28th, 1:00 a.m. The deep mines. The darkness underground was absolute. It pressed against the skin like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Dominic and Anafina moved through the abandoned tunnels of Sector 9, guided only by memory and the faint, bioluminescent glow of fungus on the damp walls. They had been walking for an hour. Dominic's breathing was ragged, the silver poisoning from the earlier week, compounded by the exhaustion of the fight, was taking its toll. He was strong, but he was mortal. "We need to stop," Anna whispered. Her voice carried no echo. She knew how to pitch it so the sound died instantly in the humid air. "They're tracking us," Dominic grunted, leaning against a rusted support beam. "The Ash Wolf. It smells blood." "It smells your blood," Anna corrected. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a strip of fabric she'd torn from her shirt. She found a patch of wet mud, rich in sulfur and iron, and coated the fabric, then wrapped it over his bandage. "That will mask the scent for 20 minutes, she said. "But we can't outrun them. This tunnel ends at the vertical shaft. It's a dead end unless the lift is working." "And it won't be." Dominic looked at her in the gloom. "You have a plan?" "I do," Anna said. Her eyes, usually soft and brown, were hard as flint. "We stop running. We hunt." She pulled him into a side alcove, a small cutout used for storing dynamite in the 1950s. "Kalen is arrogant," Anna whispered, her hands resting on Dominic's chest. "He thinks I'm weak. He thinks you're injured. He'll get sloppy. But the ash wolf, that thing is pure instinct. You have to distract the beast. I will take Kalen." "Kalen has a military-grade assault rifle," Dominic noted. "You have a rock." Anna smiled, a terrifying, beautiful expression. "I'm a ghost, Dominic. He won't see the rock coming." 20 minutes later, the sound of boots crunching on gravel echoed down the tunnel. Kalen Reed walked with a manic swagger, the flashlight on his rifle cutting through the dark. Beside him, the ash wolf prowled on all fours, its claws clicking on the stone. Come out, little rodents," Kalen shouted, his voice slurring. The veins in his neck were black, pulsing with the side effects of the combat stimulants he was abusing. "Daddy's very angry. He wanted the mines intact, but I think I'll just collapse the whole mountain on you." The ash wolf stopped. It growled low, looking toward the end of the tunnel where the massive open pit of the vertical shaft lay. A figure was standing at the edge of the precipice. Dominic. He stood tall, chest heaving, holding a rusted iron bar like a sword. "Kalen!" Dominic's voice boomed. "You look terrible. Silver Creek clearly doesn't teach trigger discipline or moderation." Kalen laughed, a high, broken sound. "And you look like a corpse, Hale. Kill him." He pointed at Dominic. The ash wolf launched itself forward, a blur of grey fur and muscle. Dominic didn't flinch. He swung the iron bar with all his remaining strength, aiming not for the wolf's head, but for its legs. Crack. The bar connected with the wolf's shoulder, shattering bone. The beast howled, tumbling to the ground, but scrambled up instantly, snapping its jaws inches from Dominic's face. They rolled toward the edge of the shaft, a deadly tangle of limbs. Kalen watched, grinning. He raised his rifle to finish Dominic off. "Goodbye, Alpha," Kalen whispered, his finger tightening on the trigger. He never felt the movement behind him. Anna dropped from the ceiling support beams like a spider. She made no sound, no displacement of air. She was the void. She landed directly on Kalen's back. Before he could scream, she jammed a jagged shard of rusted metal, honed to a razor point, into the soft spot between his tactical vest and his neck armor. Kalen shrieked, dropping the rifle. He spun around, throwing Anna off. She hit the stone wall hard, but rolled instantly to her feet. "You!" Kalen gasped, clutching his neck. Blood seeped through his fingers. "You useless bitch!" He fumbled for his sidearm, a pistol strapped to his thigh. Anna didn't run. She charged. She didn't fight like a wolf. She fought like a Holloway. She slid under his aim, kicking his knee backward until it popped with a sickening sound. Kalen fell, firing the gun wildly into the ceiling. Anna was on him instantly. She grabbed his wrist, twisting it until the gun clattered away. She straddled his chest, her forearm pressing against his windpipe. "I'm not useless, Kalen," she hissed into his face, her eyes burning. "I was just bored," Kalen choked, his face turning purple. "My father will destroy Ironclad." "Your father is going to prison," Anna said coldly. "And you're done." She applied pressure to his carotid artery. Kalen thrashed, his eyes rolling back, until finally he went limp, unconscious. Anna stood up, breathing hard. She turned to the edge of the shaft. Dominic was hanging over the edge, one hand gripping the crumbling stone, the other holding the ash wolf by the throat. The beast was scrabbling, trying to claw Dominic's eyes out. "Anna!" Dominic roared. Anna grabbed Kaelin's discarded rifle. She walked to the edge. She aimed at the ash wolf's head. "Let go, Dominic," she commanded. Dominic looked at her. He trusted her. He let go of the beast's throat. As the ash wolf lunged forward to bite Dominic's hand, Anna fired. 3 shots, center mass. The impact threw the creature backward over the edge of the abyss. It fell silently into the darkness of the shaft, hitting the bottom seconds later with a wet thud. Dominic pulled himself up onto the ledge, collapsing onto his back. Anna dropped the gun and fell beside him. For a long moment, there was only the sound of their breathing and the dripping water. Dominic reached out and took her hand. His grip was iron tight. "You took down the heir of Silver Creek," Dominic rasped, looking over at Kaelin's unconscious body. "He tripped," Anna said, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Clumsy." Dominic laughed, a genuine hearty sound that echoed through the mine. He pulled her to him, burying his face in her neck. "I claim you," he whispered fiercely. "Not as a debt, not as a weapon. I claim you as my equal, my Luna." Anna kissed him, tasting blood and dirt and victory. "About time, Alpha." 3 months later, the ironclad Silver Creek border. The winter snow had melted, revealing the scarred earth beneath. A sleek black motorcade pulled up to the border crossing. On one side stood the remnants of the Silver Creek leadership, nervous, sweating, and led by a council-appointed interim governor. Alpha Reed had been arrested following the discovery of the Vanguard Holdings financial records leaked anonymously to the Werewolf High Council. On the other side stood the ironclad pack. Dominic Hale stood at the front, looking healthier and more dangerous than ever in a tailored charcoal suit. But the eyes of the crowd weren't on him. They were on the woman standing at his right hand. Anafina Cross, now Anafina Hale, wore a dress of midnight blue that looked deceptively simple, but moved with her like liquid armor. She didn't stand behind her Alpha. She stood exactly parallel to him. "The terms are simple," Dominic said, his voice carrying over the wind. "Ironclad absorbs the management of Silver Creek's northern industries. In exchange, we provide security against the remaining rogue factions." The Silver Creek governor nodded hastily. "Agreed, Alpha Hale. And regarding the Lady Anafina." "What about her?" Dominic asked, his tone daring the man to speak out of turn. We would like to formally apologize," the governor stammered, looking at Anna with a mix of fear and awe. "For the misunderstanding at the trials. We didn't know." Anna stepped forward. The movement was so graceful it was almost unsettling. "You weren't supposed to know," she said, her voice calm and terrifyingly clear. "That was the test. You failed." She looked at Dominic, and for a second the mask of the Luna slipped, replaced by the look of the partner, the lover, the ghost who had saved him in the dark. Dominic took her hand, raising it to his lips in front of both packs, a public display of devotion that shattered the stoic, ironclad reputation. "Let's go home, Anafina," he murmured. "We have work to do." As they turned to walk back to their car, the sun broke through the clouds, casting 2 shadows, one long and broad, the other slender and elusive, the wolf and the ghost, and the world would never mistake her for weak again. And that is how Anafina Cross turned a moment of public humiliation into the greatest power play in werewolf history. She didn't just survive the rejection. She dismantled the entire system that tried to crush her. Kaelin Reed ended up in a maximum security rehabilitation facility, disowned and disgraced, Dominic and Anna went on to reform the Northern Territories, proving that the strongest bond isn't just about fate. It's about trust, survival, and seeing the truth when everyone else only sees a lie. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, romance, and tactical genius, please destroy that like button. It really helps the channel grow. What do you think? Was Dominic right to claim her so aggressively, or was it too risky? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next saga. I have a story coming up about a rejected Omega who inherits a dragon's hoard. You won't want to miss that. Thanks for watching and stay wild.